All right, welcome. It is Wednesday, March 26th, and we are here for another amazing Super Team Product Guild. I am joined by Josip Svalina here from Super Team Balkans, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation today about what it's like to work with a designer for the first time or work with founders or developers that have never worked for a designer. So this is going to be an amazing conversation. So strap in, get ready, and we're going to run with it. So, first things
Hello.
first, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. So my name is Josip. I'm from Croatia, and I think I'm the second member of Super Team Balkan. Before my Web3 career, I worked as a Web2 product designer for 3 or 4 years, and then now in Web3 for 4 years.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's been quite a journey. I also do content creation, photography and videography on the side as well. That's been a passion of mine for a few years as well. And I do that in Super Team Balkan as well.
I was going to say,
So
it sounds like Super Team Balkans has a super player down there.
yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You have to make the super jokes, right? They just kind of come out whenever it happens.
Yeah, yeah. It comes with the territory, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you have your own agency at the moment as well, correct?
Yeah, a one-man show, but I think it's good to create like a personal brand of sorts to present your work in a more professional way, I guess so.
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah,
let's just touch on that real quick because I found your website to be quite beautiful, very easy to move through,
thank you.
super engaging, and not just your typical kind of portfolio site. It had energy to it. How important is that core portfolio? Because I feel like a lot of new designers are struggling with their portfolio right now.
That's a good question. I guess the best piece of advice that I got for building a portfolio is that you don't have to necessarily include your client projects. It's best for you to include the stuff that you would like to be working on and not the stuff that you worked on, if that makes sense. Coincidentally for me, that overlaps. So the projects that I worked on, I want to work on more of those in the future. But for some people, you might be working on some stuff that's not super interesting for you, and then you can just go out there and come up with something. There are great websites out there that can give you a design brief, and then you can go off of that and build something simple, and then just post it on your website. Yeah. And I
I
think building the portfolio in itself can be a great project. Like for me, I wanted to understand how developers think and work. So I found this great tool called Webflow, which is basically a way to develop websites. Like you still have to know the basics of web development, but you don't have to write code. You can just click buttons.
nice.
So it's been a fun project for me as well to sort of get closer to developers as well, like build the stuff that I usually tell them to build and see how difficult it actually is.
The stuff that they
Yeah.
tell you we can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. I actually did it, but it took me like 6 months to build a site, and it has like 3 or 4 sections. I mean, yeah, it takes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so great. I love that you just said that. We're going to touch on that a little bit more. Lucia just said hello in the comments. So hello, Lucia. Thank you so much for
Hello.
tuning in. So happy you're here. Um, oh, I had a thought that came with that and it's gone away. We'll come back to it. So if I am looking off screen, I have just some notes on you.
No
Um,
problem.
and things for us to talk about. But I love that you actually went after how can I understand how to talk with developers or designer or founders better, because I think that's such a hole. And so I'm so glad that you said this is what I want to talk about tonight. So first of all, we might have some developers or founders in the group that have never worked with us. So we'll start talking that way and then we'll kind of flip the script the other way. So in your first opinion, what is the difference between UX and UI, and how can a developer or founder know the difference when we're talking about the process?
Well, in the simplest terms, UI is how something looks, and UX is how it feels to the user. As a founder, it's important to differentiate between the two, because something that looks good doesn't have to align with the business goals always. And UX can sometimes sacrifice the UI, but it doesn't have to be the case. So I guess as a founder, it's good to sort of have a chat initially with the designer and manage expectations. Like for me personally, part of my process recently has been to show the founders the process for the projects that are on my site. So they tell me like, I liked this project that you've done. I go ahead and show them the wireframe, the user flows, the journeys, and whatever for that project, so that in each step of the way they can sort of visualize how it should look. So I guess that would be it, if I answered the question correctly.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a really good place to start, because I think in Web3, we move so quick. Blockchain, we move so quick. Crypto, the same. We want to get that MVP to the market. We're at a lot of pressure right now in a very rapidly evolving industry to ship a product. And the UX side kind of goes out the window a lot of times.
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you bring in the importance of that user research or understanding the user flows, or how do you manage that in order to meet the expectations in the industry right now?
It's difficult because I've had projects that I worked on that were like, we need this built within a week, and that's design and development. And then at that point, you're just like there. You can either say no and say like, I'm not the guy, or you can take on the challenge and have a few sleepless nights and try to build something as soon as possible. In that case, you have to have enough experience to make educated assumptions. We are fortunate in the Solana ecosystem because the people are great, and they tolerate some stuff that people in Web2 usually don't. So if you don't have a perfect product on the release, you'll still usually have loyal enough customers that'll stick around for you to fix stuff, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, it absolutely does, because I feel like in our industry specifically, whether it's Solana, whether it's Ethereum or a different chain, we do have that benefit of being able to get a product out and then adapt it with the market, see what they like on a beta. And the users are actually really hungry to beta with us. So it's almost like we have that built-in focus group that other industries might not have. So we can use that to our advantage. How do you talk about that with a developer or a founder though? So when you're saying, here's what you asked for, here's the holes that I've noticed, what makes that conversation go easier to help them see how to adapt changes or listen to the audience?
Well, I think the most important thing is to have those conversations as early as possible and set expectations from the get-go. If you and your co-founders build a Google document and then you write up the whole product brief in there, and there's another lot of flexibility, and then you send it over to the designer and said like, we'd like you to build this, you are sort of limiting what they can do, and you are taking out a big chunk of what can make your product great. Like you have this amazing insight from someone that's been observing and analyzing and building digital products, and you're leaving that out. So my advice for the founders would be to include designers earlier in the process. And for the developers as well, like say, like I've been given like a 1 week deadline to develop the site that you're going to build. We have to leave certain things out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
no,
just having conversations early enough. Yeah.
I love that. And the conversations, I think, can sometimes be a challenge because it's, what does this mean? What does that mean? What are you really trying to say to me? When you're having that conversation, how much information do you feel that you need as a designer to process what they're actually asking for? Are you very autonomous, or are there certain levels of info that you just have to have?
Well, I guess it depends on the phase of the product development. If it's the initial phase, I like having as much information as possible about the product, about the competitors, about the target audience, and things like that. And then later on in the design process, if we've already built the wireframe and it's nearing the end of that stage, it's important to know as a founder that some things cannot be changed without a big impact on the deadline. Like if you want to take out four pages and then add 4 new ones, we cannot leave the deadline to be the same.
Mhm.
So I guess it's just being mindful of the timeline for certain things. Like if things take time, they take time. And if you have to postpone the launch, I think it's good. Because what I've had happen, especially Web3, unfortunately, is that I've been rushed to get out the design as soon as possible. And then I get it done within that deadline. And then it's not released for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So if we can avoid that, that's ideal.
It's really interesting because lately I've worked with the founders that don't want to tell you anything. I've gone from founders who are like, you don't need to know how it works, just do the UI. And I'm like, okay, interesting, let's try. All the way to founders that I wake up and have 32 messages in the morning. So I've been on that whole scope, which I'm sure you've experienced as well. And I think that's such an interesting conversation. So as a designer, sometimes I struggle with saying, this is the information that I need. And I know a lot of other designers do as well. So how do you advocate for the information that you need when you're working with a new developer or founder, where maybe they don't know why you need it?
What I found works really well for me is building a short workshop as one of the first meetings that you have. So workshop, basically a big word for something simple, just a few structured exercises that you build to help founders go through the process and basically visualize their brand to themselves. The brand often has like a certain feel that you want to accomplish and showcase to your users. So sort of detaching your personal preference from the brand. And if you like the blue color, then your logo doesn't have to be blue necessarily. And the workshop is a great tool for someone to sort of accept that fact and to meet their brand and the visual language a bit better.
Yeah, I love workshops. Do you do yours in Figma, or what's your preferred tool when working?
Yeah, I used to do them in Figma, but now I do them in FigJam, which is basically just a messier and a quicker way to work in Figma. Yeah, like a huge whiteboard.
Messier is one way to put it, isn't it? When you're scrolling through, like, what is this? Where is that coming from?
Yeah. And then you just prepare some sticky notes, some exercises. I really like the competitor analysis exercise for Solana projects. Because there's a lot of stuff that's being built on Solana that already exists on more mature chains, like on EVM, for instance. So you can look at the competition, see for the past 1 or 2 years what they've been working with and struggling with, and then sort of iterate on that, come up with some unique things that you can only build on Solana and get an advantage.
Yeah. I just want to say hi real quickly to Mihaela, who says hi from Croatia.
Hello.
Anyone in the chat that's joining us so far live, if you do have questions from any of the conversation or anything that you want to ask Josip, please put it in the comments. We can see those live and react to those. So please feel free to be a part of our conversation along the way. Let's go back to the basics real quick, because I know I have some new founder friends joining that really have no clue when it comes to UX. So talk to me about your process. How do you get it going, and what does your UX, let's do UX first. So when you're looking at the experience and the research, walk me through your process a little bit.
Well, the process varies from project to project and mostly on the deadline. If you have a lot of time, I think it's good to do a thorough research and focus on specific things in specific steps. So first things first, we have to figure out the vision for the whole project and be aligned on that. And then we set that in stone and we don't change it. After that, it's good to do a workshop, as I've said, and then come up with some conclusions in terms of the brand that we are building, how it should look, how it should feel, what are some characteristics? Is it closer to, I don't know, Nike or Adidas or whatever? Like you do some comparisons to sort of get a gauge on how it should look in the end. After that, if the brand is not built from the ground up, we get onto that and then do brand design, the logo, the color palette, typography, set that in stone. Which usually comes before the wireframes and stuff like that, because people usually want to update their Twitter profile pictures as soon as possible and get on with the marketing before the product is actually like ready, which makes sense. After that, with all the conclusions that I have from the workshop, I start building the user journey, the information structure, and the wireframes. They sort of go hand in hand. Basically, the wireframe is the most complex version of the sitemap. So I build that, and then it's a good time to test things. You want to have meetings along the way, of course, and be aligned in each step. But I think once you've built the wireframes, that's the first big milestone where you can test stuff. If you have the time, it's always good to... I think it's preferable to build the prototypes that you're going to be sending out to people after the UI stage, after you have something pretty to look at, because people often get caught up looking at gray buttons and picture placeholders. So it's difficult for them to understand how it's going to look like in the end. If you don't have that luxury, I think wireframes are also an okay place to prototype and test with the users. And it's usually early enough in the process to where you can make significant changes.
Yeah, let's talk about wireframes for a minute, because I feel like for us, they're a very important part of our process. It's for me like looking at a map where I can say, okay, this is where we've really looked at the spacing or what our elements need to go where, what artifacts I need to design and place, things like that. A lot of devs particularly don't see the benefit in the wireframe, especially when we're moving quickly. So for us, with that being a map, a really important point, how do you kind of talk about the importance of having that wireframe, at least as a general map, and having it really well executed before going into the full prototype?
Yeah, I unfortunately had the experience of having to skip the wireframes altogether. And always before we've moved ahead with that decision, I had a difficult conversation with the founder saying basically, whatever we build. If it looks bad, that's not on me. Unfortunately, yeah, that doesn't sound too good, but we are skipping steps and we cannot expect to have the same design in the end. So I guess shifting the responsibility onto them helps. They sort of understand that, okay, if we skip this and if it looks bad, we've thrown away 2 weeks of our time building a UI that might look okay, but doesn't fulfill our goals. And this has to go into development and it doesn't look good and we need to iterate and things like that. So I guess what I've mentioned earlier, like showing the wireframes to people from past projects helped me a lot. They see that it's a useful tool. They can connect the dots between the wireframe and the UI in the end, and they can, I guess, visualize how it should look and what's the purpose. Also, it's important to tell them that for wireframes, I can iterate. I can like build 10 wireframes in a few hours, but I can only build one UI in 10 days.
Yeah.
And if we have to change, if we have to change it, it's not going to be good. Also, if we make change in the one place, we have to update it on all the other places, components, design systems, and things like that. With wireframes, you don't have any of that. So, yeah,
I like that. I think what we do need to do is advocate a little bit more as designers. And I think designers are a little shy in many aspects to say, this is what I need, this is what we have to do, but it's okay to do it. And that kind of takes me into the next thought that I have here. And that is when you're doing the design review or the wireframe review or any type of communication, design is an extremely iterative process because what we're trying to do is make it work and make it look good while it works. And how it works really depends on human psychology, human behavior, the basic patterns, that we're trained in. We could talk heuristics and patterns and use cases that mean something to us that other people don't even know they're following. So when you're in that process and you're doing the iterations and you're in the communication, talk to me about what the stage reviews look like for you. What do you expect the other side to give you? And how do you open up a conversation when you are delivering your product?
Great question. Usually before each design revision, when I send over that infamous Figma link, I usually also outline all the things that should and should not be commented. So if it's the wireframe stage, I'll have like do's, and it's gonna be like structure, layout, content, positioning, or whatever. And then don'ts, colors, typography, spacing, basically anything visual. So they go into it knowing what to look for. But when you're generally like giving feedback, I think it's good to be like specific and keep the context in mind. Also, I think the most powerful review tool is a question. Like if you can ask the designer, like, why did you choose to do this? You're gonna get a explanation that's mostly rooted in something good. Sometimes it's just gonna be like it felt good, and then you can have that conversation. Why it might not be the best choice, but if someone says like, why did you put this company logo in the top left of the website? Then designer can respond. That's the usual place where people look for it. It's like they have that that pattern engraved in their mind to look for it there. If we put it in the footer only, they're gonna be confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess ask questions, give context, and be specific. Like don't just say I don't like this and push your personal preference. Keep in mind that you are building a brand that's not yourself.
Yeah.
It's separate from you, so it's gonna have its own set of challenges and needs.
It's your own little baby to take care
Yeah.
of. Yeah. I like that because it's challenging to go through that design process. And I think especially if you're on a small team, which a lot of Web3 companies are right now, we're grinding, we're working all day, we're teams of 3, 4, 5. And the designer, if you've never worked with one before, your thought probably is you should just be able to sit down and do it all without any feedback. But it is such a really intense project to make sure you're connecting properly and getting that product out. So I was talking with Phil from Airfoil last week, and we were talking about the importance of asking why. And if we can't break through a question, or if there's a challenge in the design and it's not matching, we just keep going, why, and pushing. And a lot of times founders or developers will be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you asking me why?
Yeah,
just
exactly.
do it. You're like, because we're trying to get to the bottom of it. And I think that can be really frustrating for devs or founders. But how do we encourage them to get deeper into that process, or to open up a little bit more, or to have the brainstorming sessions? How do you do that?
Well, usually I don't have much resistance to having like meetings and workshops and things like that, fortunately. But I guess it's important for them to know why they need to know the why, I guess. If they understand that once you build the UI, it's difficult for things to change. Developers have a set plan in stone, and once they already develop the site, it's not possible to change it easily. And that each step of the design process leads you in leads you in a correct way to proceed into the next step. Once they understand that, I think it's easy for them to see the purpose of all the small steps within that. Like if I explain the wireframes to them really well, they usually don't ask too many like follow-up questions or on my methods.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I've been fortunate in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point too, that we as designers also have to step up our explanations and our design purposes and really go into the room and say, this is what I've put together. This is why I've done it. This is why this matches the iterations that we've done before, and try to remove as many of those questions as possible in a way to make that stronger, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've found that actually like jumping the fence and learning more about the development and about business helped me more in design than learning design.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but you sort of connect with people in a different way. And then when a founder says like, we don't have the time for this, you can say, I understand. Here are some options that can fit in within your goals. You don't have to like be super persistent and stubborn. Like, we need to follow this super specific process that I've built over the years. You can adapt and help the founders build their product. That's why you're there in the first place. Yeah.
Truly, I find myself, I can be stubborn sometimes. So that's why I was laughing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, what do you mean? So it's always good to be like, yeah, loosen up a little bit. And I love how you just said that. I think that's a really valuable tip for our newer designers that are on the call, just to say, hey, I hear what you're saying. Here's what we could do instead. And those are your options. And that's what you got. And when you do know that business and the way it moves, and you do get to know the company well, then you can kind of already go in and be a couple steps ahead to make that happen. That's such a valuable piece of information. Thank you for that. I hope that helps some of the new designers in the audience. And then I just see the number growing for who's in here. So hello to all of our new viewers. And please remember, you can put questions in the comment box. You can ask Josip anything. We have great experts that come in on the Product Guild with us, and we definitely want to use them. So don't be shy with that. Let's talk feedback or advice for devs now, because we're talking a lot about design. Devs and founders, what advice would you have for them if they're too shy to speak up about something wrong in the design, especially as first timers? How would you say it's okay to tell your designer you don't like something?
I guess talk to them about the expectations for reviews. I'm usually pretty open to getting feedback, but I also give them some groundworks for how to give feedback. So I guess be approachable and in the initial conversations, so that someone doesn't feel threatened when they give you feedback. They don't feel like scared. They feel that you'll accept their feedback and talk to them about it. So I think that's the personal side that's gonna have the biggest impact. And if you're a developer, especially, I mean, founders, in my opinion, in my experience, actually, are not too shy usually. They'll tell you if they don't like something. But developers, on the other hand, can be shy a little bit. They also know that you worked hard on building something, and then they don't bring something up that concerns them. They move into the development, and because of short deadlines or whatever, it doesn't look how you envisioned it, at least at first. So I guess you as a designer can be the one that's pushing the conversation. And me personally, I ask the founders to connect me with the developers as soon as possible. And then I talk to them about the handoff and all the rest in between. In the beginning of the project, so that I know that they expect me to build like tablet resolutions for all the UIs, because that's how they work. They also develop from the mobile to the desktop, so that's going to give me some insight as well. So yeah, like talking as much as possible, as soon as possible, having those difficult conversations, and being open to getting feedback. If you are defensive, if you don't implement the feedback like ever, if you're never wrong, if you're stubborn, then of course people are going to feel a bit standoffish when giving feedback. So we just be approachable, be human.
Definitely. And this goes back to everything being an iteration. I love collaboration. I love somebody saying, I like this, I don't like that. So I really thrive in that kind of environment. This brought a question to me, not on what we were thinking about, and I've already forgotten. So I had a really good follow-up question and it just went away. We'll see if it comes back. But let's talk about different languages that we speak. Sometimes we're in the room with someone, and when we're talking dev language, founder language, and that brings me back to the point that I almost forgot for a moment ago. I think what we have to remember as designers too is that founders are the heart of their project, and they have a right to defend their vision. And so when they are defending their vision, we have to find the way to support their vision. And sometimes that can be challenging, but founders also have to have the right and the openness to defend their vision. So if they're not in that state, then maybe that's a time for the designer to step back also and have that conversation of, okay, where are we disconnecting in order to make that happen? Or how can we support your vision better as well? And that goes along with your point of being stubborn. So if any founders or devs are on the call, support your vision. We just want to make it happen. Don't be shy. You're right.
Definitely. That's a great point.
Yeah, I was talking,
Yeah.
and that came because I was talking to a founder yesterday, and they said, well, I just don't feel like I should talk to my designer and tell them if I don't like something, even if it doesn't match what I'm thinking. And I was telling them there's ways to have that conversation, and you absolutely can. It's your baby. You should defend your vision, or maybe defend isn't even the right word. You should advocate. I think advocate is a much better word for that. So let's go back to that, the different languages. So a lot of times what I've noticed is when I'm doing ideathons or mentoring or working with clients, we're in the room and we're saying the same thing, but we don't realize we're saying the same thing. So
Definitely. Yeah.
talk me through like the difference in language that we use and how to bridge the gap between technical thinking and design thinking to cut out some of the process.
Oh, that's a difficult question, I might say. Basically, as a designer, you must disconnect the words from the meaning in one way. When someone says this text is too small, they don't necessarily mean that you need to increase the size. You might need to change the typeface. Maybe the contrast from the background is not good enough, or things like that. Like, you have to know that words don't mean their literal sense, because as a designer, of course, font size is gonna mean something different to me than to the founder. Like, I know that this text box fits as a third thing in the hierarchy in that section, and it cannot be bigger than the subtitle, for instance, but I want it to be bigger. And then I guess knowing that you don't have to like execute all the comments literally. Like, you can, what I like doing is asking a few follow-up questions, like, why don't you like this? Why don't you like that? What if you did this? And then after that, creating like few mini variations for that specific thing that I left a comment on. If they say that they don't like the color of the font, you can ask a few follow-up questions, say that you chose that color because of this and this, and then just build a few versions with the different colors, for instance. However, it's very important not to show the founders anything that you would not like to be implemented and approved.
Okay.
As a young designer, what happened to me a few times, like, I built something, I know it's not good. Like, it breaks all the design principles, but they told me to do it. I think it's better not to show that stuff to them. If they really insist, then okay. But usually through conversation, you can talk them out of that. Yeah.
I think that's a good. Can you talk through that a little bit more? Can you maybe give some details about that? What the details that you can give in regards to like the project, the design, or what wasn't good about the design? Because this is something that we see a lot in Web3, where some of the websites are a little bit more funky, where they try to break things, or they want to go back to that retro style, and it does work sometimes. But also a lot of founders or developers just don't have good design taste. And so they want things, and we have to break them out of that. So can you talk a little bit about that live experience a little bit more, and what didn't work and how you overcame that?
Yeah, it's difficult at times, but again, working for on many projects, you sort of get a sense when that's gonna come in the process, and then you can always recall to stuff that you've already laid the foundation with. Like, if you had a workshop, if you said that you want a serious brand, if you want like a monochrome color, if you want the imageries to be the main visual point, whatever. And then someone says, okay, let's color this button blue. Then you can say, okay, we concluded this in this earlier stage because of these reasons. And then you have something concrete that you can latch onto, and it's not your opinion against mine. It's both of our visions going towards that same goal. if that makes sense. Like you want to be aligned on the foundation as much as possible, and then sort of like build that pyramid, which is not a popular shape in Web3. Yeah, but yeah, I think like having the context and the vision
Yeah.
and sharing that is gonna help you the most when building a product.
Nice. What do you think is the most difficult concept to discuss when you're working with founders or developers? Is it spacing? Is it colors? What do you see they constantly ask you about?
I'd say information architecture, like hierarchy, and why some things shouldn't be on the same screen. Like if you're building a multi-step wizard, it makes sense for you to separate things into different steps. Even, I mean, the most common argument that I get is like, oh yeah, but people have to have another click. Like let's fit all of this into the same screen. That's the most difficult conversation that I usually have with people. It's basically arguing that fitting more stuff in the screen is going to make it easier for people to use. And sort of just being there and explaining that like having that hierarchy and separating things into smaller chunks is going to make it more, I guess, digestible for people to use the product. Yeah.
Definitely, especially when we're working often on so many data heavy sites, having the visual hierarchy broken just to avoid eye fatigue is so important. So don't be afraid to break it up a little bit. We promise there's a purpose for the user. So I have a lot of conversations on that where it's like, just put it in a bar. And I'm like, we can't have all that in one info because the brain will get overwhelmed. We're going to have drop off. And so that's a really, really big conversation. So I'm glad that that's a good point to touch on too.
Yeah.
Talk to me about you. Let's get into how you design. When you're getting into a state of flow and you're really getting into a project, how do you get yourself into that state of sitting in front of it and being able to execute?
Oh, that's very, very difficult for me. Making that jump from the wireframe onto the UI is for me the most challenging thing. If you build a wireframe that's too detailed and too good, sometimes you get boxed in, sort of, and it's difficult to break out of that mold and reimagine and rethink certain sections and styles and have that like a bigger vision that certain things don't have to fit together in exactly the same way that you've done in the wireframe, because wireframe is just the structure and the grouping of elements basically, and the UI can be a lot more fun and interactive. So making that jump is challenging for me. After I've built like a single page and then it's a multi-page website, all the others sort of like flow together easily, but that first jump can be challenging. And there, what I found works best for me and for some other designers that I also work with is building a detailed mood board. So that's a tip that I got from a designer from Split. She's the design lead in Super Team Balkan. Mary, shout out to you. Basically, you want to build a mini mood board for all the issues that you come up with. For instance, you want to choose a color, like find 100 different inspiration images of different color palettes. It doesn't just have to be like websites. You can go to posters, like graffiti images and stuff like that, and sample color from that and come up with a color palette. You can do the same for typography. Like you have that workshop foundation where you have all the information laid out and you know what you're aiming for, and then just find specific examples for exactly that out in the wild, not even on the websites. Like images, like Pinterest is a great tool for that as well. And then you come up with a problem where you cannot think of a solution to how to design something. Like you've built it in a wireframe, but design just doesn't click. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't fit the brand. And then what I found that works best is building a mini mood board for that. Like find visual inspiration, find the different layout options and experiment. And then build. And after like 100 iterations, you'll find something that clicks. Usually. Yeah.
I always laugh when I'm working. I have my working Figma, and then I have the
Hmm.
Figma I show to the client, and my working Figma is just stuff everywhere. And
Yeah,
it's like if you
yeah.
don't have 5,000 pages on the working file that you then clean up, like
Hmm.
that's a project going.
Yeah, yeah.
I try to
What are you
focus.
doing? Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, experimenting, and like working through the issues. Like finding a typeface, for instance, can be challenging, or like a color palette that fits the vision really well. And like sampling stuff from other mediums is really helpful for me.
Yeah. How do you make something that you've sampled or something old look new?
Hmm. I guess it's taking small chunks from everything that you've gathered. Like
Mhm.
you cannot truly create something new and unique.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a compilation of the things you've seen in the past. So try to feed your brain with the relevant stuff, and then from there you can iterate. You can ask people for opinion. If you know other designers, which I fortunately do, you can ask them for opinion on like visual style, and then you'll get something idea that you didn't even think about yourself. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What the famous quote is, good designers, like talented designers borrow, but good designers steal, or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you just want to steal from many places at once, and
And that's
then
the beauty of the
while you're
internet.
stealing, you'll come up with inspiration, and then you'll spin it off in a certain way. And yeah,
Yeah.
like website, when you're done, it still has to look like a website. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think is killing it right now? Like when you the top of your head, what's your favorite project, website, or branding that you've seen lately?
I have to say, Super Team Balkan. We recently had a rebrand, and they killed the rebranding. So I have to give the shout out to my home team.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check
Yeah,
that out. And maybe Super Team Germany, we need to come back
uh,
on ours, have a competition of the super teams here.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, I'm obsessed with Archeum's branding right now. I don't know if you've seen
Hmm.
their website, and it's so beautiful, and I love the way it moves and the fluidity in it and the colors. And it's interesting to me because having the very contrast of the purple and the black sometimes can be
Hmm.
so difficult, but they really executed that really well. What's your favorite design trend right now?
Design trend. Well, I
Yeah.
like the like bits and the pixelated stuff, and combining that with something unconventional, like gradients and like extravagant combinations of shapes and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like 3D and OpenGL, like animations where you move the mouse and the background interacts with it. I think that's also really cool.
Yeah. You also do 3D animation, right?
Yeah, I mean, on a basic level, like
Yeah.
I'm a curious person, so if I want to learn something, it's to me it's not important that it's not in my like ballpark currently. I like having a lot of skills where I know the basics, and where I can like do some basic stuff and talk to the experts if there's something more complex that needs to be built. Like I've learned the basics of the spline design tool, basically like a 3D tool where you can embed the 3D into the website.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a great tool. It's simple to use, and there's many of those out there as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about that skill set real quick as one of our
Hmm.
final questions here. This conversation has been loaded with so much great information, and I am going to put notes out on X tomorrow for everyone who came in later, has questions. And just a reminder to everybody who's just come in, you can ask questions in the comments. We can see them. We'll answer them as we wind down here. Let's talk about designer skill set, because this is a huge conversation in the industry right now when it comes to UX, UI, product design, product engineering, things like that. A lot of people that go into design in Web3, we often find ourselves doing UX, UI, also branding, also business development. Then it's also going into content development, content creation, content graphics, as well as the 3D graphics, motion graphics, animation. And now we're also moving into the age where we have to code. A lot of jobs also want us to
Hmm.
code. What do you
Yeah.
think is the most important skill set for people for UX UI, or when we are going into an interview process, how do we say that's not quite one job? Does that make sense?
I mean, from my opinion and my
Yeah,
experience, it's been really difficult to have those conversations, because if someone wants to find a person that's a jack of all trades,
they will.
and they will. So
Yeah,
if you're not that person, maybe you don't have to waste your time on the position where you're not the best fit.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like
And
that.
in terms of like learning all those skills, I think it's most important to have the people skills. And I mean, for me as well, like this has been like a new experience for me. I don't usually do stuff like this, but I see this as a learning experience as well, like something that get good at as well.
Yeah,
So if you have people skills, AI will never replace you, and people will want to work with you. Connecting with people from different industries and different job positions. Like if you're a designer that only hangs out with the designers, you'll be sort of like boxed in. You want to talk with project managers, with business developers, with social media managers, and all the people that you collaborate with. You want to build good connections with them as well. And then
yeah,
in terms of like building a skill set that's specific to design, find things that you're passionate about. Like I could want to learn about gardening as much as I want, but if it's not something I'm passionate about, I'm never gonna be as good at that as someone that's really passionate about it. So why even put yourself through that? If
yeah.
you're passionate about 3D and you've never done 3D, go and do 3D. Like no one's stopping you. Like a spline that I mentioned is free, and for each like skill set, there's a free tool out there. There's a course that you can take that's also probably free, and just get started and invest enough time into it to figure out if that's something that's valuable to you, if you're still interested in it, because you might lose interest after a few hours.
Yeah.
So I guess you don't have to necessarily follow the industry and what the industry needs. If you're the expert, you'll find your projects.
I like that a lot. And also, I think as designers, we're just curious people,
Hmm.
especially when you're into product. You love the research, you love the design, you love all of it. And so, to some degree, you also have to stop yourself at one point.
Yeah, exactly,
Set
exactly.
your own
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah, I've heard a great thing from Chris Do. He's the founder of the Future. Basically, you want your skill set to look as a letter T. Like you want to be like have a wide base of stuff that you know, but be really specific in that one thing that you want to build. Like if you are a great UI designer, be the best UI designer you can, but also have like supporting skill sets. Like if you know how to edit photos in Photoshop, that's gonna help you within that UI. If you know how to build like a basic 3D, that's also going to help you. If you know how to develop a basic stuff, that's also going to help you. But be like specified in that one thing. I think that's going to be general advice that's good for most people.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And this question came from some of my new friends in the industry who are getting very frustrated with job ads. And my
Hmm.
advice to them was just try, because you can also learn on the job. And I don't know a single founder or developer out there who would see a really good portfolio and not encourage somebody to advance their other skills. Every founder I know in the
Hmm.
field is like, yeah, this works and we can work on that. So don't be shy when you see that growing list that's out there.
Yeah,
Of skills, things
definitely.
like that. Yeah. I have one more question, and this is a question that I'm closing every product guild down with. And I don't tell you I'm going to ask you this ahead of time when I brief you with possible questions.
Okay.
You cannot use Don Norman. You cannot use Steve Jobs. Who is your biggest inspiration in the design field?
Oh, that's tough.
That's why I don't let you prepare for it. So it's
That's tough. I might be thinking about that for a while. I'm not sure. Like from the besides the design, I also do like photography and video, and
Mhm.
I liked the like physical aspect of certain things, like how they're designed, more than the digital. So I don't know. I
Nice.
don't know.
No, when it comes to you, tweet us, let us know, because I think it's so important to kind of build up a repository of good
Mm-hmm.
resources and inspiration. And we find inspiration in so many different areas, whether it's fashion or websites or sculpture. So it's always interesting to see what draws someone and go, that's good design, and that person comes to
Mm-hmm.
my head. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We are going to close down for the night. So if you could just tell everyone where they can find you, tell us more about your work,
Mm-hmm.
maybe give a shout out to something that you're looking to work on, or shout outs to your team, anything you want to close us down with.
Thank you. It's been a great conversation with you tonight. And I just like to give a shout out to the Super Team Balkan bros. And you can find me on Twitter, like everyone else in the Web3. It's Svalina J. That's the handle on basically everything. Hit me up if you have any projects that you might need help with.
Yeah, amazing conversation. Like we said at the beginning, if you're just coming in, his portfolio is amazing. The work is outstanding. I was so excited to get to talk to you tonight. The feedback and advice that you have is fantastic. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Shout
you
out
very
to
much.
Super Team Balkan. You've got a winner.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind.
Have a fantastic
Yeah.
night. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Ciao. Oh, I missed.